Purdy out of the shotgun, drops a couple of steps, going to take a deep shot to Brandon Ayuk. It's deflected and caught.
Cousins, first read taken away. Left side, he throws. Wide open pitch. From being able to make a play on that football. That's where Sutton was so good last year. The red zone. Nix evades the run. Nix the fake. Another fake, and he spins into the end zone. They're going to get a free play. Rodgers is the master at it, and a touchdown by Lazard. Jones on the fake, pressure coming, and he's sacked by Parsons.
God, the corner.
Open man Hudson.
The throw caught. Hudson lost the ball. Looked like a touchdown. Instead, it's a turnover.
On the pocket. That's away from Chenal, who's trying to get after him for a second time, but the ball is thrown to the end zone, and it's caught! On it to McCaffrey, right up the middle, and a stiff arm, McCaffrey for 6.
Good day, everyone, and welcome to a fantastic, what is supposed to be a great episode tonight here on the Extra Point. Alongside my co-host here, Isaiah Leon, I am Ben Cruz. Hope you guys have a great Friday night with championship weekend ahead of us this upcoming Sunday. And before we get all of that fun stuff to you guys for tonight, really quick, before we start, make sure to, right down here on the ticker bar below, make sure to follow us as always on our socials on the IM6 and the MI6 Sports Network on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. You can also follow me specifically on my X or Twitter at BenCruz144. You can also follow Isaiah Leon on his socials as well too. So obviously all of our content, if you guys want to obviously see our great stuff, by all means, feel free for that specifically. And obviously we're just continuous every single week to keep on growing in terms of our content. So if you guys like what you're seeing tonight, feel free to give us a comment and jot it down, and we can't wait. But Isaiah, hope you're doing great, my friend. It looks like you're out and about right now. So, I really appreciate you obviously coming on. And how are we doing?
Ben, not bad. I mean, it's been a pretty good day. I am rocking my new Drew Lock jersey, putting on some Drew Lock swag on this Friday night. I don't think you expected that when you started Extra Point tonight, but yeah, man, it's been a pretty like good day. I'm starting actually my week of paid vacation from work. So, I don't know. I have no plans because never really anticipated that I would be on a paid week of vacation. So we'll see what I do this week. But yeah, man, it's been a crazy day in terms of the NFL world. I mean, the Raiders hiring Pete Carroll, which we'll talk about in a little bit. Cowboys continuing to do dumb stuff like usual. Who's surprised by that? I mean, Jerry Jones might have put off the biggest, dumb move of all time. Can't wait to talk about that. And yeah, we got a lot of football going on tonight. I mean, tomorrow or Sunday. We've got great stuff in the hockey world and in the basketball world. I hope you enjoyed the little Christmas present that I bought you, for Christmas, my friend. And also, I didn't want to bring this up, but I had to. But I'm still reveling in the Lakers win over the Celtics last night. It was a good game, but still, and it was very unexpected.
Yeah, no, it was rough. We were coming off of a overtime the night before in LA too. So I don't want to make excuses though. We got a freaking ass kicked, but don't worry, we'll try to get our revenge back next month in Boston. We'll remember that for sure. But we're not here to talk about basketball. We're here to talk about some football. And I know Isaiah's obviously rocking his football stuff. So let's get to it, my friend. So we'll start really quick with the breaking news that happened today before we get all into the recap stuff of the games and stuff, because that's pretty much going to be a lot of our overall show for tonight. But Isaiah, I know you went off the air and you did your own show this week about the Dallas Cowboys and the incompetence of Jerry Jones, which looks like it was going to happen, which they are going to bring in Brian Schottenheimer to potentially be their head coach. Well, that came to fruition today as Jerry Jones has essentially officially made Brian Schottenheimer to become their next head coach. Looks like, according to Rap Sheet, the next 4 or 5 years. So the Dallas Cowboys could have had guys like Kellen Moore. They could have had, even Bill Belichick. You name it. There were so many other more qualified guys. But Jerry Jones is incompetent, and basically he wants to rule the whole entire world and the whole entire Jerry World kingdom. He has to take somebody under his wing. This is going to be the 10th coach in franchise history for the Dallas Cowboys. And all we got to say is, Dallas Cowboys, man, you might as well just keep Mike McCarthy while you're at it. You essentially, how can you downgrade with all the great hires and the coaches that were out there? Pete Carroll, seriously? You couldn't have gotten Pete Carroll, a guy that's really out there on the market? I mean, Isaiah, I 100% agree in terms of what you were talking about the other day about it. This is complete incompetence. This is basically the Cowboys not trying to change this up. And until specifically Jerry Jones is out of there, I don't see much changing. You know, it's all about specifically trying to do the same exact thing. I'm trying to get the overall saying. What's the same thing specifically? We're trying to do something every single time, but I'm literally trying to get on my tongue right now. It's literally basically doing the same exact stuff every single year. Essentially kind of what I'm getting to. And that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to essentially kind of make something out of something that it's not. You know, it's basically it's just a mess. That's really all it is. But I really want to ask you this now, because specifically it is officially official. Has your change of your opinion the other day has changed at all? Has it made it even more crazy? What's your overall stance on this? And my best guess specifically is probably much does not change.
Well, Ben, we actually have that little 2-minute clip in here. So I'll play that for the folks out there before I give my actual stance on it, so the folks out there that are watching can actually know. So, folks, if you have popcorn, if you got soda, if you got whatever, a pint of beer, I don't know, just sit back and relax, because this is going to be pretty entertaining.
If Jerry Jones hires Brian Schottenheimer, who apparently has had 2 days worth of interviews with the Dallas Cowboys. He's spent about 10 hours with them meeting to, be the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. If Jerry goes and does this, Jerry Jones needs to have the SWAT team, the FBI, sent to his house and dragged from his house and dragged and put into a retirement home and locked up there immediately, throw away the key and let him stay there, because his tenure as the owner of the Dallas Cowboys needs to end if he does in fact do this nonsense. Do you see anybody interviewing Brian Schottenheimer to become a head coach right now? There's nobody. Do you see anybody interviewing Brian Schottenheimer to be an offensive coordinator anywhere? Nobody. So you're going to tell me a guy that nobody's interviewing for an OC job, let alone a head coaching job, you're going to show me that he's capable and he's going to be the head coach of the Cowboys and lead you guys to the promised land? You have got to be kidding me, Jerry, man. You have got to be freaking kidding me. This might be the last hire of your life. You're 82 right now. You're going to latch your name and your legacy to Brian freaking Schottenheimer? Are you freaking on drugs, Jerry? Are you freaking drinking too much? I mean, my God, how could you possibly sell Brian Schottenheimer to your fan base? Brian Schottenheimer never called the plays in Dallas. It was Mike McCarthy. You know the last time Brian Schottenheimer called plays in the NFL? It was 2019, 6 years ago. Brian Schottenheimer's offense was ranked 27th in the NFL out of 32 teams. Let's look at that again. 27th out of 32. His offense absolutely sucked. He's been fired from a bunch of places because when he's been the play caller, his offense has absolutely sucked. So you're going to hire him to be your head coach? That just shows right now you are unserious about winning. There is no hope for you, Jerry. You better not do this nonsense.
And what happens? Jerry Jones does the nonsense and he hires Brian Schottenheimer to be the head coach. Listen, I'm a 49ers fan and I'm supposed to root for the Cowboys to, not have success because, we're rivals and stuff. But as a football fan in general, the Cowboys being successful is good for the NFL because it just makes the NFL more relevant. Everybody talks about the league and it's just more fun. So to see Dallas in the state that they are, Ben, I mean, it's just kind of sad to see because, you want to have a competitive rivalry. You want to have the Dallas Cowboys be, championship contenders year in and year out. And so the sports talk shows and everybody can talk about it. But, tonight, I know there's a bunch of Dallas Cowboy fans on Twitter that are pissed off. Every Cowboy fan on social media is probably going bananas right now. If you're a Dallas Cowboy fan and you want to, start water in the tub and throw a bunch of toasters in there and then throw your jerseys and pants or Cowboys gear in that tub and watch it burn, I would let you do that because tonight, this was Jerry Jones's last straw. This was a disgraceful hire for the Dallas Cowboys. This was an embarrassing hire for Jerry Jones. Like I said earlier, Ben, is there anybody interviewing Brian Schottenheimer to be a head coach anywhere? No. There was like 7 jobs, right, that opened up this year. Is there anybody besides Dallas that interviewed Brian Schottenheimer to be a head coach? No, right?
No.
Is there anybody in the last 3 years that has interviewed Brian Schottenheimer to be a head coach?
Probably not.
Is there anybody in the last 3 years that has interviewed Brian Schottenheimer to be an offensive coordinator besides Dallas?
There might be. If I remember, it's been a while.
Brian Schottenheimer, the last time this dude was relevant was 2019. He was the play caller for the Seahawks, and they were actually somewhat decent, but their offense stunk because they always kept running the football, and their offense was like the biggest liability for them. So he was fired because of that, I think. His offense was like 27th in the NFL, and every time he's called an offense, his offense has been bottom 5 in the NFL. It's been just awful when he's called an offense. He didn't even call the plays for the Cowboys last year. It was Mike McCarthy that called the plays. So for you to say that Mike McCarthy, you want him out of there and you want Brian freaking Schottenheimer to be your head coach, a guy that's never been a head coach, a guy that's been a career assistant that's been fired everywhere when he's called plays. Tonight proved that everything that Jerry Jones says about, I want to win, I want to win a Super Bowl, yada, yada, yada. It's absolutely unserious. He's not committed to winning, and it's a laughable hire. And, I honestly think that someone should go and drag Jerry Jones out of his house and put him into a retirement home because this dude should not own an NFL team. For you to make that stupid of a hire, Ben, imagine this. They just turned down Bill Belichick, Lincoln Riley. Mm-hmm. You could have had, Pete Carroll for Brian freaking Schottenheimer. You chose Brian Schottenheimer over Bill Belichick. You chose Brian. How is this even possible? This is the dumbest.
He was out there.
This is the dumbest move that Jerry has ever made. And I'm sorry, man. The Cowboys, Jerry, you could have rehabbed your reputation with this. You could have, proven that, hey, I'm really serious about winning. I've learned from my mistakes. But nope, same old Jerry. And, yep, the Cowboys, sadly, they're not going to be anything. They're not going to be any relevancy. And, anything about Jerry wanting to win, it's all a bunch of hoopla. It's all a bunch of nonsense. And, yeah, this is a really bad hire for the Cowboys. And if you're the Cowboys, you want to jump ship, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I love the Cowboys' downfall, but the fact that they made a move specifically just to basically inspire their fans, man, that just hurts. we'll talk more in terms of, the coaching carousel, because ever since last week, we got a ton of stuff that kind of transpired. So we're going to get more into that coming up. But let's get into all the fun stuff now, because like we mentioned before, it is now divisional championship weekend. We have the overall matchups in place. And I don't think we got any of the matchups in terms of our playoff brackets right. So, I think one of the matchups we obviously weren't surprised about. One of the other ones we kind of were at the same time. So I think that's what's going to make a lot of fun. And but we're going to really quickly get into the division round really, really quick. There were 4 games, 4 really, really good games. I think that it really kind of made up for kind of what was a lackluster. Besides that Tampa Bay and Washington game, I think every other game is kind of a lackluster, type of game. We're gonna start over to the Saturday slate games. We had 2 games on that Saturday slate. We had the Kansas City Chiefs taking on the Houston Texans. And I think most people, besides a couple people, let's say, picked the Kansas City Chiefs to win this game. And this was kind of a game, and we talked about this, Isaiah, last week in terms of our predictions, but we kind of had a feeling because the Chiefs were at home. The Texans were going to be able to keep it close at halftime, and we were right. It was only 13-6. The offense for the Chiefs really wasn't doing a whole lot. Patrick Mahomes, look at his overall line in terms of this game: 16-25, 170 yards passing and a touchdown. The defense for the Chiefs was pretty. The Chiefs defense was good, but the Texans defense was really, really good in this game. I thought, at least their front, they were really getting after Mahomes a lot. And Will Anderson, he had an absolute crazy game, including 2 sacks. But the biggest thing about this game, people want to talk about the Chiefs and the referee and this and that. I could understand. There were a couple atrocious calls, especially in the second half of this game. But the biggest part of this game, so in the third quarter, the Texans got a touchdown by Joe Mixon, 13-yard touchdown run, and then they missed the PAT. And then, of course, in the fourth quarter, Mahomes found Kelsey for an 11-yard touchdown, made it 20-12, and then Bucker kicked a field goal, made it 23-12, pretty much right around the 5-minute mark. Basically, once Bucker kicked that, I'm like, the Chiefs pretty much were going to win that game. But let's talk about in terms of the overall, the game really quick as a whole. I thought the Texans played hard. I thought C.J. Stroud, as an overall, played hard. The biggest thing was the Chiefs' defense. They basically was kind of a replica of the game that the Texans were in the regular season against the Chiefs at Arrowhead, in which the offensive line for the Texans was a complete train wreck. Of course, when you miss that PAT, of course, to tie the game off of Fairborn, he had obviously his struggles throughout the playoffs. You're not going to win. You got to really play complimentary, really clean playoff football against a Chiefs team that I know is obviously not as great as the last couple of years, but you still got to really be on top of your game, especially if you want to pull off that upset. So really quickly, Isaiah, what was your overall thoughts really quick on that Texans-Chiefs game?
I thought 2 things. I thought, number one, I thought the Texans shot themselves in the foot and basically sabotaged themselves. When you look at the Texans, right, during that game, they did a lot of great things. They did a lot of things right. But every time it just seemed like that they were coming back, or they had a big play, it was always getting nullified by penalties, or they had a good enough gain, but then it would get set back by a false start or a holding or something like that, or they get a stop and then it would get nullified by, roughing the passer or pass interference or something like that. So I thought the Texans, they kind of shot themselves in the foot. You talk about that Fairbairn missed extra point. That was big because I felt like that really took the soul out of the Houston Texans. Because the Texans, I think, expected, look, 13-13, mid-third quarter, you have a chance in the game. But for them to go on that long drive after really outplaying Kansas City for majority of the game, and Kansas City still having the lead, and for them to, go on that long drive and to score a touchdown and then see Fairbaugh miss the extra point when they were anticipating it was going to be tied. I thought that really took the soul out of the Houston Texans, and that was a really brutal blow for them. You talk about missed extra points, penalties, like it was just untimely mistakes from the Texans. And when you play the Chiefs, you can't make those type of mistakes to beat them. I mean, my Niners did that in the Super Bowl last year. Mistimed, missed field goals, mistimed penalties, turnovers. Like, you can't do that against the Kansas City Chiefs. So the Chiefs didn't play their best football, but they played enough. They played well enough to win. And, Mahomes, I mean, what a great throw to Kelsey. When he's falling down, about to be sacked, he just throws it up, and then Kelsey's right there, like just a crazy play. I do got to give credit to the Texans defense. They played way better than I expected. I thought that they would struggle in this game because they had been struggling all season long, but they came to play. I mean, Will Anderson was an absolute freak out there in this game. And credit to the Chiefs. The defense played well. Steve Spagnuolo brought the blitz, and the blitz delivered when he had to. Holmes delivered when he needed to. But I also think the other big takeaway I have from this game, Ben, is that, the golden boy treatment that the NFL gives Patrick Mahomes is absolutely real, because some of the penalties, like you mentioned, like the one where Mahomes is running, he's a runner and he like slides down. Like, how do you expect a defender to stop? Like, it's physics. It's like common physics. Like, you're running full speed. You can't stop midway when you're running and just stop and hold off. Like, you can't do that. And like, they didn't even hit Mahomes. They ran into each other. So like, some of the penalties was just absolutely atrocious. It was blatant. And, I think the NFL definitely needs to take a look at that, because a lot of the times, Mahomes, he's getting, these just weak calls against the opposing team. And you're just like, why did you call that? Like, it just doesn't make any sense. And it was very apparent in that game. Like, I think you saw the Will Anderson penalty where he got called for roughing the passer. I mean, that was one of the worst roughing the passer penalties I've ever seen in my life. I mean, he just literally just touched Mahomes. He just touched him. And you caught a flag on that. Like, at this point, like, if we're going to call those type of penalties where the guy just puts his hand on Mahomes' shoulder, you might as well give the guys flags and let's play flag football. Like, that's just ridiculous right there that you called that. But yeah, I think the Texans, unfortunately, they just shot themselves in the foot, and they had an opportunity, but they just wasn't able to deliver.
Yeah. I just think, we look at the Texans as an overall team, right? They're really, I think, building something special. I know that CJ Stroud, obviously, in his second year, kind of had that sophomore slump, but I thought overall, at least in the playoff games, he wasn't bad. I do think, though, they really, losing Stephon Diggs and losing Tank Dell, kind of that second half of the season, really hurt them a lot. They really had to rely on, obviously, Nico Collins, who was an absolute freak of nature, and Joe Mixon. But obviously, really quickly talking about the Texans, Bobby Slowick got fired, their offensive coordinator, and I don't really know how to make about that, because obviously I really haven't seen the Texans a lot, this year. But I know you're obviously a little bit more in tune in terms with Bobby Slowick's scheme. So what do you think really quickly about that before we get into the Commanders-Lions game?
Yeah, I think he was a scapegoat. It's crazy. Yeah, it's crazy how fast he fell, because last year, everybody was talking about him like he was what Ben Johnson was, a hot coaching commodity. Everybody was interviewing him, it seemed like, and he was running one of the best offenses in the NFL. So for him to, like, not even like a full year later to get fired, like, it's crazy. And it's just a reminder that, hey, in the NFL, you might as well, and we'll talk about Liam Cohen later on, but you might as well like take that extra leap and take that next job, because it's not a given in the NFL that you'll be able to get a head coaching job if you pass up one head coaching job. So I feel bad for him. I think that like he shouldn't have gotten fired. I don't think it was his fault. Like, I think he had a lot of injuries there. Like you mentioned, Stephon Diggs was hurt. They had a Tank Dell, unfortunately, suffer that just absolutely just crazy sad injury that he suffered. And then, the offensive line, I thought they lost a lot of key pieces, and I don't think Nick Caserio did a good job of replenishing that offensive line. So I don't like the move. I think that he's proven he's a really good play caller. And hey, if I'm the Niners, I welcome him back, to be honest, because he's free right now, and I don't know who's gonna take him on their coaching staff.
Yeah, he would be a really good move, I think, for you guys. And we'll have to see in terms of what happens there. But what will happen, right, is the Washington Commanders, man. They're still flying high, that team, and they're going to be facing a really tough team we'll just get to momentarily. But obviously, as an underdog going into the number 1 seed in the Detroit Lions, which I think everybody had very high expectations to potentially get even to the Super Bowl, kind of given with the way that their season went. This was a fun game. Let's be real. This went back and forth. You just talk about counter punches that Jayden Daniels, man. And we talked about Jayden Daniels in terms of everything that he was able to do the week before in Tampa Bay. But Jayden Daniels made that specific overall start and made this start that he just had. And I know given that the Lions are very banged up defensively, but to go into their place, it's still impressive as is. He went 22 of 31 with a 71% completion percentage, almost 300 yards, 299 yards to be exact, 9.6 yards per attempt in terms of the throw, 2 touchdowns, no picks, 122.9 QBR rating. Absolutely insanity for a rookie against the number 1 seed, by the way, at their building. Jared Goff wasn't great. I know that he threw 313 yards, 23 of 40, a touchdown, about 3 interceptions. Isaiah, one thing about Jared Goff, and I've been hearing a ton in the last couple of years, is his struggles against zone coverages. What did the defense do for the Commanders? They ran zone coverage, and they got a couple key takeaways, including a pick 6 that happened in the second quarter of the game. But I will say, it was 31-21 at halftime. There was really not a lot of defense that was playing thrown. But just kind of look at this overall game. The Lions made a ton of mistakes. I think they made 4 or 5 mistakes. That's something that the Lions really weren't doing a lot during the season. And yeah, just the Commanders, they're still riding high. They have no fear, and very disappointing though from the Lions. I think that a lot of people, kind of give into what they were looking at. I had them potentially getting the Super Bowl, and I know losing Hutchinson and losing a couple of guys in that defense, that linebacking crew really, really hurt. But just give credit to the Commanders. I am so happy for that franchise. We talked about giving kind of the success just winning 1 playoff game. Now they're a win away from getting to the Super Bowl, and it'll be the first rookie to get to the Super Bowl, I think, and feels like forever, according to what Schefter had said the other day on NFL Live. So it's just absolutely incredible stuff, and Commanders just completely deserve it. Really good job by them of a really good Lions team.
Yeah, Ben, when I was watching this game, and when the buzzer sounded, I literally was in shock and in awe, because I was like, man, I think we just witnessed one of the greatest performances in the playoffs, and I think in general, by a rookie quarterback that we've seen at all time. Jayden Daniels, I think you can make a case right now. He is having the greatest rookie season we've seen in the history of the NFL. We've seen a lot of great rookies, but this kid, for what he's able to do, putting this roster together on his back, this roster is not even really that good. When you look at all across the board, this roster, they have Eckler, he's decent as a running back. He's not the best running back. You have Terry McLaurin, who's a solid receiver, but he's not number 1 or number 2. He's not working with a whole lot. And for them to be 1 win away from the Super Bowl, it's absolutely insane. And I was extremely happy, because I actually picked, I don't know if you remember, but I actually picked the Commanders to beat the Lions in this one. But I didn't think that it was going to be more so of, I thought it was going to be a shootout. I think everybody had it as a shootout. And it definitely did live up to the hype, but I thought it was going to come down to 1 stop. But the Commanders got 3 or 4 stops in the end, which I never expected. And, So credit goes to Dan Quinn. That defense, they dialed up a great game plan for Washington to be able to stop them. I mean, Cliff Kingsbury was in his bag all game long. You talk about Ben Johnson being the creative play caller. Like Cliff Kingsbury, I think, looked across the sidelines and was thinking to himself, like, man, like I want to outshine that guy tonight. And he was running some crazy plays. Jaden Daniels, he was playing like Superman out there, just getting whatever he wanted during that game. And, you know, about the Lions, I'm not really surprised, because I think what we've seen in football this year in college and in the pros is that whatever you've been throughout your history, it always comes back to shine. You know, you look at Penn State, right? Everybody was talking about how Penn State in college football was really good, and people were talking about Penn State as actual national championship contenders. And then against Notre Dame, you know, I kept saying, like, look, Penn State is going to choke because that's their reputation. They always choke the big games. And against Notre Dame, I mean, they choked in classic Penn State fashion, where Drew Aller just throws a pass across his body from the right side to the left side and gets picked off. And then, you know, you look at the Oregon Ducks, another team that everybody was talking so highly about, but you look at their reputation, just consistent chokers, and they go and play the Ohio State Buckeyes, your Buckeyes, Ben, and just get absolutely whooped in the Rose Bowl. And then you look at this year in the NFL, you know, the Vikings, everybody talked about them. And the Vikings, I mean, you know, absolutely shit the bed in their playoff game, you know, when it mattered the most. And, you know, you look at the Lions. I'm not surprised, because when you look at the Lions, the two things about the Lions that have always been true is Jared Goff can't be counted on in the big moments. And we saw that in that game where he threw big moment, throws three interceptions in that game, and had a fumble as well, 4 total turnovers. Yeah. And he was at all not comfortable in that game. You could just see it. His confidence was very, very low. And then the other thing that was true is that the Lions defense, people don't realize this, but the Lions defense before that Vikings game, they were giving up like 35 points a game to opposing teams. Like, and I know they had a lot of injuries, but still, like, in the last 7 games before that Vikings game, they were giving up like 35 points a game. And so I was like, I was sure that this Lions team against this Commanders offense, they were going to get exposed. And sure enough, they did. Their linebackers were lost. They couldn't get any pass rush on Jaden Daniels. They couldn't stop the run. I mean, Eckler had a bunch of massive gaps to run through all game long. Their secondary couldn't keep up with Terry McLaurin and Devin Brown and those guys. That Lions defense, like, I know they're going to get Hutchinson back. They're going to get a bunch of players back, but I think they got to definitely get better and more focused in terms of that defense. And then, you know, I think also the other takeaway from this game is that Ben Johnson, I felt like, got too cute. You know, 3rd and 1. You don't do that cute creative play where you throw, like, you do the jet sweep and you have the receiver throw the football. Like, that never ends well in the NFL.
He threw it, so they were down in the game.
Yeah.
And like, they were in their own end. Like, it wasn't like specific. I think they were at least close enough, but it's like you're down, man, in the game. I think a lot of the times the Lions, like, they were basically able to just throw kind of whatever because, like, they just felt like they were the better team. And when the playoffs come and stuff like that, though, you can't have that stuff unless you're really ahead or something, or you really feel confident about it. And like you just mentioned, I think that was just the wrong point in time to have a moment like that.
Yeah, exactly. And like when he threw the when I think it was Williams that threw it, Williams threw the interception, I was like, I'm not surprised, because like, when have those trick plays ever ended up working in the playoffs? Like, these receivers, they're not quarterbacks for a reason. That's why they end up throwing picks. So I'm not surprised Detroit lost. I think that, you know, the Detroit Lions showed that, you know, they are who they are. Big moments, big games, they will always choke, and Jared Goff is the same thing. And it's going to be you know, we'll see what happens with Detroit, because they're losing a lot of coordinators. They're losing both Johnson and Glenn have left. They're losing a bunch of assistant coaches as well. I think they have a lot of free agents too, so it might be a long build back up for the Lions. And as far as the Commanders is concerned, you know, Ben, I don't know if we're not supposed to give our picks now, but I'm going to be riding with the Commanders to the Super Bowl, man. I can't doubt this team anymore. Like, their offense can put up 40 points a game on any given basis against anybody. And their defense, they get timely stops, and that's how they win. So I can't doubt Jaden Daniels anymore.
All right. Now let's get into the next game, which was on Sunday afternoon. Crazy enough, we actually had some really great, not only great games, we had two games on the same day that involved snowy weather. Really fun games, by the way. So we're gonna start with the first game, the LA Rams and the Philadelphia Eagles. The Rams beat the Texans. I say Texans, the Vikings the week before. And the Eagles beat the Packers in the wild card game. So those two teams obviously met up. Looking at this overall game, it was a really good game. It might have been honestly like kind of a very sleeper type of game when it came to just theatrics. Jalen Hurts in the first quarter had a 44-yard run, got the lead. Ellie missed PAT, so it was 6-0. Stafford found Higbee. Rams took the lead. And then Saquon Barkley, which Saquon Barkley's continuing to do Saquon Barkley things. One of two massive long touchdowns. The first one was 62 yards. Eagles go ahead, made it 13-7. Rams got a field goal, only score in the second quarter. Third quarter, it was two field goals. Made 13-13. Elliott got a 44-yard field goal. This was really starting when the snow was starting to really come down. And then Jalen Hurts took an absolute brutal safety, and a sack for a safety. So 16-15. And then the Eagles got two field goals by Elliott, 23 yards, 37 yards. And of course, the knockout puncher, at least at the point in time, with about 5 minutes left, Saquon Barkley had a 78-yard touchdown run. So Saquon had 60-plus touchdown runs for the two touchdowns that he had. Absolutely incredible stuff by Saquon. And so it was 28-15 at the point in time. Now, the Rams in the next ensuing drive, they scored. They got a touchdown with about 2-3 minutes left. And then the Eagles got very conservative in that next ensuing drive. They went 3-and-out. And then the Rams had a chance. They were moving all the way straight down the field. And, Stafford hit a couple massive big-time throws, including Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua. They got to the 13-yard line by Philly. Jalen Carter, who is an absolute monster for Philly's defense, had a massive stop. And then Stafford had an incompletion on that fourth down, and that's all she wrote. So the Philadelphia Eagles held on in a 28-22 victory. Really, really good game. The Rams, I think, really nothing else to be ashamed about. I think they had a really good season, and they really fought hard, kind of given everything that's going on over there in LA. So they really fought hard, but I think the Eagles, their defense made some crucial stops at the end, and of course their running game and their offensive line is a massive reason as well too. So with all that being said, what's your overall thoughts on this game? Really quickly, Jalen Hurts, I still really question about. There was obviously some very inaccuracy stuff. A lot that's been going on really in the postseason, and there potentially was at times here and there in the game that he was kind of banged up. Obviously, he's just a massive runner, and that's the thing about Jalen Hurts I kind of worry about is he runs a whole lot, and his throwing ability is very overall. But we've seen a lot in these games. I thought this past weekend, Isaiah, where look at Matthew Stafford. He was 26 of 44, 324 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, and he lost the game. Jalen Hurts won the game on 15 for 20 with 128 yards. I mean, you would think that the other side around, the Rams would have won the game given all that bias by Stafford, but it was all because of Saquon Barkley and the defense. So you could also win complimentary football without your quarterback obviously doing a hell of a lot. But if the Eagles really want to get to the Super Bowl, Hurts really has to be a lot better than what he has been. But really quickly, your overall thoughts.
I thought Jalen Carter saved Nick Sirianni, Kellen Moore, and Jake Elliott's ass. I think that's plain and simple what happened in this game, because if he doesn't get through the Rams offensive line and make that huge sack on Matthew Stafford on second down, I think the Rams win this game, because I think they were driving down the field with ease. There was no way they were stopping them. If Carter doesn't make that stop on, I believe it was second down, then Sirianni would have been fired today. He would be out of a job, because the fact that, let's talk about one of the more controversial calls of that game. It was the 2nd and 10. I think it was 2nd and 10. The Eagles had the ball close to midfield because the Rams did an onside kick. Rams trying to get the ball back with a couple timeouts, and they went conservative, like you said, but that was on the first play where they got no gain. Then they followed, or they got a 2-yard gain, I think. Then they follow that up with Jalen Hurts deciding to do a play action pass, and takes a 8-9 yard sack.
I remember that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if the Eagles had lost that game, Nick Sirianni and Kellen Moore would be out of a job right now. Like that was Kellen Moore. That was an atrocious play call. And Nick Sirianni, you're the head coach. You're the guy that can overrule Kellen Moore in that situation. Like, what are you doing passing the football? Like the Rams, I think, only had like 2 timeouts in that situation. You're trying to get them to use the timeouts. You're trying to get them to run the clock. You're having success running the football with Saquon Barkley, who just got a 2-yard gain, and you know he can explode at any point in time on any play. And you decide to do a pass with Jalen Hurts in snowy conditions, and you know Jalen slipped. You lose 8 yards. You have to punt the football back to the Rams. You're lucky Jalen Carter was there to clean up your mess, because if he's not there to disrupt that, I think the Rams win this game and then they're going to the NFC Championship. So salute to Carter. He was an absolute monster throughout the game. He was an absolute monster. He's been an absolute monster throughout this entire season. Saquon Barkley as well. I mean, those massive runs. I think he had like 2 70-yard runs in this game.
2 and 78.
Yeah, it just absolutely massive. What an acquisition he's been. And you know, I know you live in the New York, Boston area. How about those Giant fans? How must they be feeling right now? Oh my gosh!
No, I hear it all the time, man. Around my area, a lot of my buddies are Giant fans, and I will be frankly, to be fair with them, the Giants don't have a great offensive line, so you really couldn't be able to see what Saquon's potential would be, at least for this year, given the offensive line between Phillies and between the Giants. So I do think that's kind of something to take into account. But listen, Saquon Barkley has literally been their whole entire offense. That's the biggest thing that I worry about for next week. I mean, A.J. Brown, since he's been reading this overall book, and give A.J. Brown a lot of credit, he has not really been anywhere to be found. Dallas Goedert obviously has shown some flash, and Devontae Smith has. But if the Eagles really want to win, and we could talk about this more in detail very shortly, they need to get their guys involved in the passing game, because it's way too much specifically on Saquon Barkley's hands. And I think that the Commanders are just going to start to sell out via on the run, and they're going to really have to make Jalen Hurts throw the football and really beat them through the air. So we'll talk a little bit coming up then. But you talk about the Rams-Eagles game being great and the Commanders-Lions being great. Well, this, of course, maybe potentially led to the game of the year. And, you know, we weren't surprised about this, because this was obviously grab your popcorn, your theatrics, all you want to talk about. You had the Baltimore Ravens, the Buffalo Bills, 6:30 p.m., you know, CBS, Jim Nantz, absolute chills, giving down my spine on the CBS call. And, of course, you had 15 degrees with some snowy precipitations in Buffalo. I mean, you name it, was absolutely incredible to watch. And it lived up to the hype. Just kind of going really quickly through the recap. So Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen, obviously the 2 MVP candidates going at it. First quarter, they each both actually on the first drives for each team, they both traded touchdowns. Jackson threw a 16-yarder to Bateman. Ray Davis on the Bills tied it up, made it 7-7. Josh Allen, who had 2 rushing touchdowns, I think. Yeah, 2 rushing touchdowns. He got his first one was from 1 yard out, made it 14-7. Tucker made a field goal, made it 14-10. And then Josh Allen had a 4-yard touchdown, made it 21-10. So pretty much in that first half, it really was all in control by the Bills. Lamar Jackson threw really, really tough first half. After that first drive, he threw an interception, which I had no idea where the hell he was throwing to. I think it was really a busted coverage. And then the strip fumble that he had. I mean, I think he should have just went down. He made just a boneheaded mistake there. But then in the third quarter, give the Ravens credit. They weren't going to go down without a fight. I'm not surprised. They were able to stop the Bills pretty much right after halftime on that first drive. And, the Ravens finally were able to get their running game going, because they really didn't get their running game going, at least in the first half. But Derrick Henry was really starting to cook at least one of the drives right at the end of the third quarter. And it made it 21-19. Lamar Jackson did try to find Likely to tie up the game. And that was kind of a really low underrated play in the game to prevent the tie. So it's 21-19, but the Ravens were still getting the momentum. And then we go to the fourth quarter. This is where this stuff really starts to heat up. The Bills got a 51-yard field goal kicked by Tyler Bass, who actually had a really good game in this one. So it's 24-19. And then on that next ensuing drive, the Ravens were really starting to, keep on going with their offense and really starting to cook and loose in the third and the fourth quarter. But Mark Andrews, who poor man, I mean, he just got absolutely ridiculed, especially after the game, because I'm about to talk about not only one but two really massive mistakes, from this guy. And the first one was hell of a play by the linebacker. I think it was Christian Benford, or I think it was Bernard. It was one of their linebackers by Buffalo who had a really great play on the ball. And that really changed a lot because I think that the Ravens were going to get points there if, that the linebacker for Buffalo did not make the play. So it's still 24-19. Buffalo drove down the field. And with about 3 minutes left, 3:30 left, the Bills were at like the 4th and goal, and it was at the 2, and they didn't decide to go for it. Josh Allen tried to run it in, and give Baltimore credit, because if Josh Allen ran it in and Buffalo got the touchdown, ball game, game's over. There's no way that that the Ravens have a shot. But instead, Buffalo kicks the field goal, and then it was all about Lamar Jackson, seeing what he can do. Can he specifically come in the clutch, or he has been in the last couple of years in the playoffs, and find a way to make this game interesting? And he did it. He had a couple big-time throws. He hit a big-time throw on the run to one pass was to Tylan Wallace, who only had one catch, but he has a 27-yard catch, really big catch by Wallace on that last drive. And then Lamar found Likely with about, I think, 2 minutes left, or a little under 2 minutes left of the game, and he hit Isaiah Likely for a touchdown, so made it 27-25. And then the play of the game, in which they go 4-2 again. This was the second time they went 4-2, 2-point conversion again, and they threw up the play call was absolutely perfect. They drew up an absolute perfect play. It was basically a flat pattern from Jackson to Andrews. And I originally thought, I'm like, all right, I would love to see overtime. This game absolutely deserves overtime. And then all of a sudden, you just see the absolute ball go right through the gut and through the hands of, again, Mark Andrews. He did not only not get his revenge from the previous fumble earlier on in the second half, but just, man, I feel for him. To be fair, the Ravens, they really didn't play massively clean football. The Bills did. But the Ravens really, they could have made this game. They still could have won this game on different levels. But, it's just, I was one hell of a game. And I was one of those type of games that you always look at. And it sucks that one team had to lose. But I want to ask you really quick how you felt about that game. Like you said, like I mentioned, it had game of the year vibes. And it definitely, for sure, lived up to the hype.
Yeah, totally agree. I mean, this was definitely a game of the year. Picture perfect playoff football. I mean, you had Josh Allen, you had Lamar Jackson, you had the Ravens, you had the Bills. Two great teams going at it. You had snow football in Buffalo, prime time, Jim Nance, like you mentioned, Ben. And then you had back and forth. I mean, the first two drives, it was Bills touchdown, Ravens touchdown. They both throw haymakers at each other. And then I felt like the defense kind of settled in where they were getting stopped. The other team was getting a stop. And then, they were getting like big turnovers after big turnovers after big turnovers. It was just a great football game to watch. And, normally, when you look at Lamar's losses in the playoffs, you would say like, okay, Lamar lost that game for the Ravens. In this game, I would say that Lamar, I wouldn't say he's at full fault for this loss. There is some fault in it because, like playoff Lamar did show up, bad interception, the fumble. We've seen Lamar in the playoffs turn the football over a couple of times. But I don't think the Ravens lost because of Lamar. They lost this game, sadly, because of Mark Andrews. And I don't want to pin it on him, but I mean, Mark Andrews, you have to catch that pass. Like that was right in your hands. It was a picture perfect play call by Todd Monken. It was a great play call. You have to catch that. And for you to not catch that, to not send that to overtime, it was unfortunate. But I feel for Mark Andrews. He definitely he definitely doesn't deserve like a lot of the hate that's been thrown on him right now. Yeah. But it was a great game. It was a great game. It sucks that the Ravens lost this game. I wish we had overtime, like you mentioned. But I think for the Bills and the Ravens, Ben, whoever won this game, it wouldn't really have mattered because the next round is where all the questions would be answered. Where both of these two teams, they're good at beating each other. The Ravens have beaten the Bills before. The Bills have beaten the Ravens before in the playoffs. It's about, can you beat Mahomes? And I think that's what whoever won this game, it wasn't going to answer all the questions. The question that's going to be answered will be this weekend is, can you beat Patrick Mahomes? And we'll talk about that AFC Championship in a bit, which is going to be a dandy. But yeah, man, it's going to, if Josh Allen wants to break through and go to and win a Super Bowl, he's got to get through Patrick Mahomes, and we'll see what happens this weekend.
All right, so now you just mentioned Patrick Mahomes and about Josh Allen, and we talked about Jaden Daniels, and we talked about the Eagles. Well, now it's down to 4 teams, and this is where we now can talk about the championship round preview. This is where basically we're going to talk about the fun part of the overall show. So I hope you guys enjoy it. We're obviously going to get into it. If you guys want to have your predictions, by all means, for those that are going to be watching, right, put your comments in, and we'd love to see them. All right, let's go to the tail of the tape. We'll go to the obviously there are predictions and the X factors, like we always do every year with these overall games. So we'll start with the NFC side of things. And if you guys could see really quickly in the background here, I know obviously isn't great, but we obviously have the final 4 teams with the Eagles, the Commanders. Who would have thought, right? The Commanders would be in the final 4, Buffalo and Kansas City. So we'll start right with the NFC game, and I'll let you, Isaiah, take it from here with the NFC side, and I'll do the preview for the NFC side.
All right, so for the NFC side, we have a matchup that I don't think anybody thought was was going to happen back in September, which is the Commanders against the Philadelphia Eagles, the NFC East showdown in the NFC Championship game. It's going to be amazing. You got the Commanders with Jaden Daniels in that amazing story. You got Jalen Hurts, who is banged up. There were question marks whether he was going to be able to play, but I think he's definitely going to be able to play in this game, but he's going to have to be wearing a knee brace, so he might be a little bit limited, so keep your eye on that. And that great Philadelphia Eagles game, it's basically great offense versus great defense in this game between these two sides. The good news is the weather for Philadelphia, it's looking very promising. It's going to be sunny with 39-degree weather, so it's going to be great
Actually,
weather.
40s. It's going to
in the 40s. Wow.
Yeah, so
that's even better. I mean, if you're a Commanders fan, you should be happy because that's great weather to throw the football in, honestly.
Yeah.
But as far as my prediction, this is, I think, going to be a really good game. Not as good as the AFC Championship because that's going to be amazing and extremely electric. But Ben, like I said in my remarks about the Commanders, I cannot bet against Jaden Daniels anymore. This entire year, I've kind of picked against him a little bit, but after he beat Tampa Bay, after he beat Detroit in Detroit, I can't bet against him. This dude is a transcendent player. He is playing like Superman right now. There's nothing that he can do that, is wrong right now. And you look at right now with the Eagles, I'm worried about Jalen Hurts because he's banged up, which means he can't run the football. And his specialty is running the football. And I look at the Philadelphia Eagles, if Jalen Hurts can't run and the Commanders are able to stop the run with Saquon Barkley and the rest of those guys in the running game and force Jalen to throw the football, I don't trust Jalen Hurts to be able to throw the football and have a great day when it comes to passing the football because he's never shown it before. So and in the NFL playoffs, when you want to get to the Super Bowl and you want to win the Super Bowl, you have to be able to pass the football in the NFL. So I'm going to go with Jaden Daniels and the Commanders. I'm rolling with the Commanders to go to the Super Bowl and go to the Super Bowl and win the NFC and just complete the Cinderella story on Sunday night or Sunday afternoon in Philly. I'm going to go Commanders, Ben, 27, Philadelphia 16.
Okay, really quick. Let me put the line for this game because I didn't put that on my banner. So here we go. Okay, so like as I was just previewing, Commanders, Eagles. Right now, the Eagles are laying 6. And obviously for my betting show right before I came on the air for you tonight, we obviously went through the 2 games, and you know, I obviously have not picked the Commanders at all, really a lot in the playoffs. Not because I didn't think they were a great team. I think obviously with Jaden Daniels, they're obviously their fun story. I just thought that eventually, like their luck was going to start running out, and they were playing better teams. And I just thought, something was going to happen. Rookie quarterbacks, it's really hard to keep on, sustaining a lot of this. But man, after seeing kind of what's going on the last couple of weeks, it's really hard to not only root for this obviously this great story, but now I'm like in the belief now. I mean, kind of looking at Jalen Hurts and kind of his overall injury and kind of the passing ability, right? I'm going with the Commanders to cover that 6 and to win outright. I'm riding with Commanders here. I just think that they're playing really, really well. Motivation in sports is always, it feels like a drug. When you're playing really loose and nobody's really giving you a chance, and to go on the road too, where it's gonna be a hostile environment, you're pretty much gonna be an underdog against a really good team in Philly, which definitely could have a chance to win. But they've been like this for the last couple weeks and a lot of the season in terms of just like, they don't really care really. And I said Jalen Hurts, Jaden Daniels, just the poise that he has. And if the game gets close, and we've talked about this, Isaiah, as well, too, when games are close, that's when Jaden Daniels rises. The kid, Isaiah, gets better throughout the game. For rookies, that shouldn't be happening. And you would think, too, with a lot of these type of defenses with their tape and stuff, as a rookie, be able to start kind of learning more and more. I know that the Eagles have a very good front. I mean, give them a lot of credit. They have a very good defense, and that's why they're obviously here till now. But I think that secondary definitely could get thrown on, and the Commanders obviously love to throw in that the deep ball game and stuff with McLaurin and Damian Brown, Zach Ertz. Their running game got really, really good last week, which is massive because I thought that before last week their running game is starting to really struggle with Eckler and Robinson. So if you get those guys back and involved with their running game, I think that just adds more of an element. So I trust right now I know that the offense for Philly is better, but I trust the overall flow right now with the Commanders' offense than I do really with the Eagles' offense, and that's why I think they're going to win this game. And the familiarity of course, as well in division, I think that just takes an element as well too. So I think this is going to be 31-27 Washington. I think that, oh man, I think that it's going to be a 2-minute drill, and Jaden Daniels lives up to when they're down in the game, and he has a game-winning drive to go to the Super Bowl. I think it's basically written right now. I think it's going to be 2 minutes. It's going to be 26 to like 25 or something like that. He's going to go for the kill shot on a pass to like Ertz or one of the running backs, and he's going to send those Philly fans home stunned, and it's going to be cool to watch. So mark it down, folks. So
Ben, before we go to the the AFC side, I do want to say this. I am extremely happy, and I think I said this last week, but I am extremely happy for those fans in Washington because I don't think any of you guys know this, but I actually grew up a Redskins fan because I grew up with Colt Brennan, who was one of my favorite players. He was with the Redskins. So I know what those people in Washington have been through. The bad quarterbacks, the coach after coach after coach, all the losing, the RG3 young Washington team getting, when they were about to go on that rise and then it gets taken down because of him having the injury. So if the Commanders make the Super Bowl and, potentially even win, or even they just go to the Super Bowl, you might have to. I know there was a big event in Washington, D.C. This past Monday, but you might have to lock down the entire city because that city's going to go nuts if they end up going to the Super Bowl on Sunday. That's going to be even bigger than what happened on Monday because those Commander fans, those Redskins Commander fans, they've been waiting for years. I don't think before this year, they never won a playoff game since, 1999? Like, it's been that long. So I hope the Commanders do it. I think it's going to be great. And also, I think one more point we're forgetting is they played each other, I think, the last week or the second to last week of the season. And remember, all those players for Philly were still playing. They were still playing their starters in that game. And Washington put up 30 on that Eagles defense. And I think they figured out something late in that game. They were not doing very well in the first half, but in the second half, I think they put up like 23 points and really shredded the Eagles from top to bottom.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a really good game. Like we talked about the weather, there's going to be no effect with the weather, so I think that really favors. I mean, both passing games, to be honest, but I think it really favors the Commanders because I think that there's elements into this game. I mean, to be fair, they did play in Tampa, so really warm climate, so it really wasn't a lot of, no effects in terms of the passing game for the Commanders, and then they played inside of the dome in Detroit. So obviously there's no knock in terms of Jaden Daniels. I don't think really anything's going to stop him right now. I don't even think a blizzard or something is stopping this kid right now. It's been absolutely incredible. Another thing too, Isaiah, about the Commanders is they've been practicing like light work on like Wednesdays for like 45 minutes. That's kind of the way that they've been doing it. And apparently it's just kind of a way they're doing really like light practices and really short practices, kind of as like a, clear in mind type of thing. So like, as they say, really on anything in terms of life, why don't break it, don't fix it. So, I mean, it's obviously working well for them. They're playing a lot of like crowd music. I've been looking at a lot of their practice videos. It's been really, really cool to see. So whatever they're doing well. And we both have them going to the Super Bowl. I mean, that'd be absolutely crazy. And we're both rooting for it. I think it'd be really cool. But I do think, to be fair, the Eagles are a very good team, and it would not shock me if they're also there as well. All right, we're going to go to the next game, and I'll take it away for this side. We got the AFC Championship game, and folks, we meet again for this overall matchup. This is kind of the new version of Tom Brady and Peyton Manning when it comes to a matchup that has just been a rivalry. We got the Buffalo Bills. We got the Kansas City Chiefs. You got Josh Allen. You got Patrick Mahomes. You got Sean McDermott. You got Andy Reid. You got Travis Kelce. You got James Cook. You got Matt Milano. You got Chris Jones. I mean, pretty much offensively, defensively, special teams, quarterbacks, you name it. I mean, obviously the Ravens-Bills game was fantastic between the two MVPs. But this is really a game that we know for a fact. I feel like every single time that these two teams face each other, it's always a classic type of a game. So I think that makes it a lot of fun, and right for a chance to go to New Orleans for the Super Bowl. I think it's gonna be just another great game. So the really quickly, when you come on the tail of the tape, and we didn't really do X factors for the other game, but we're gonna do it for this game. Is the Bills when they play the Chiefs in the regular season, and the Bills actually snapped the Chiefs' undefeated streak this year in the regular season in Buffalo. But the Chiefs always are able to respond against the Bills in the playoffs. Especially right now, Patrick Mahomes is 3-0 against Josh Allen in the playoffs. One was in the division round in Buffalo last year, and then the two other ones were, of course, at Arrowhead in the championship. So Josh Allen still has kind of that getting over the hump factor over in Kansas City where he hasn't done it yet. So, but I will say that if there's any year for the Bills to make it happen, it's got to be this year. With that being said, I'm going with the Chiefs here. They're at home, and home field, I think it's a big factor in this game because both of these teams are fairly even, and I think that whoever the home team is, I think that's a massive advantage when you look at it. And I think that if this game gets down to the wire, and the quarterback specifically, when I look at the two quarterbacks, I'm trusting Patrick Mahomes and the clutch to make the plays when it matters most. And the coaching. I think the coaching is really another big time thing as well too. Andy Reid or Sean McDermott. I'm looking at the overall consistency when it comes to the in-game coaching, and I take Andy Reid, at least in the playoffs, than what I do with Sean McDermott. I will also say too with the Bills, I know they obviously won that game against the Ravens this past weekend, but the second half was not great. They were pretty conservative, and they almost lost that game due to Joe Brady. And Joe Brady's pretty much been a guy that has a really good game plan and almost been in the ass last week. So you can't do it against Kansas City at all. I think they'll take advantage of it. But yeah, with that being said, I'm going Kansas City. Right now they're laying, I think, 2.5. So they're obviously it's been within like a 3-score, 3-point game. And I think it'll be like I think it'll be a lot lower than people think. I think it'll be a defensive great battle, but I think there'll obviously be some offense. Obviously, it'll be like a little bit of a balance. I'm gonna go Kansas City 24-21. I think that's kind of a fair score. And my X factor for both sides. So for me, offensively for both, I'll do offensively and defensively. So offensively, I'm gonna go with the Bills. My offensive guy is the tight ends. I think that obviously guys like Dalton Kincaid. Yeah,
Don't
Dalton
worry,
Kincaid.
I did that last night too. I said Connect instead of Kincaid or vice versa.
Dalton Kincaid and Dawson Knox, the DK brothers, I guess that you can call them. They're both tight ends. I'll just make that easy now if I want to get myself mixed up on that. But they're both really good targets and big time targets for Josh Allen. Obviously Keon Coleman and Curtis Samuel. They have some guys on the outside. Amari Cooper was not found at all last week. I mean, he obviously had, I think, a target here and there, but he needs to really step up. The Bills, their offense was between James Cook and obviously Josh Allen at the goal line. I mean, the Bills really offensively did not have some big time plays, and they're going to have that against the Chiefs team, especially if they want to pull. I wouldn't say really pull off the upset, but if they really want to find a way to get over the hump and break the code at Arrowhead, as they're going to really have to get their offense really cooking a lot of this game. And then defensively, so right now, one of their corners for the Bills is currently questionable, and if he doesn't play, then you're going to have to pay Kara Elam, who is obviously not as crud on that cornerback room. So it's going to have to be that secondary players on the defense. Obviously Mahomes has a ton of, obviously the arm talent's still there. I mean, the Chiefs' offense is still very, very good. So I think the X factors, at least from the offensive side, is obviously outside of Allen and James Cook basically do all the work, can they get a lot of their receivers kind of more involved? And I think that they can. And then defensively is their secondary, because I know that obviously the running game between Hunt and between Pacheco, they run the football really, really well. But when they need to make the passes as well too, I mean, their passing game, of course, Mahomes is very efficient as well. So that's the way that the Bills are going to have to find a way, if they want to find a way to win this game, is they're going to have to, just play complementary football and not turn the football over. And really, Allen's obviously going to have to be on his A game, which I think he will be. For the Chiefs, I think offensively, I'm going to go with two guys that really did not do much last week, but I think that they'll definitely get a lot better this week. Hollywood Brown and DeAndre Hopkins. These are two receivers specifically that, the Chiefs really paid a lot of money to. Not specifically Hopkins, but Hollywood Brown. And they could be massive X factors. I mean, I feel like, Rashee Rice, his absence has been absolutely massive. He made some big time plays in their playoffs last year. Hollywood Brown, I think, can kind of be a very similar type of receiver, in which you could put them all over the field and really create that one-on-one mismatch, on the outside, because I do think that they're going to try to do what they can to stop Kelsey. I think it's really easier said than done. And then their running game. I think they're still going to keep on running the football. I mean, the Bills' running defense against Henry was pretty impressive, at least in the first half, and then the second half it wasn't as good. But you can run on the Bills' defense, you really can. And I think that the Chiefs have done a really good job on it. So I think that both offenses are very, very evenly matched. I don't think that one is really completely better than the other. It's going to come down to late game execution, the coaching, and what offense and what defense is just completely just better for that game, because I think that's really what's going to come down to, is just the matchups and the execution.
Yeah, Ben, I think you made a lot of great points. For me, This is gonna be a a classic game. You know, we've said this you know, all along. Can you hear me, by the way?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know why my camera's frozen. But okay. You know, I think this is gonna be a classic. I think that when you look at both of these two teams, they're extremely talented. They're extremely good. Both quarterbacks are superstars, transcendent players. Both, you know, the offense, defense, they have a lot of great weapons. They are very good in terms of, they're very good in terms of coaching as well. But Andy Reid, I think, is a lot better than Sean McDermott. So it's going to be a great game. I can't wait to watch this game on Sunday night. You know, grab your popcorn, guys. Grab your soda. Grab whatever you need. Make sure from 6 p.m. Eastern time until 9 p.m. Eastern time or 10 p.m. Eastern time, just to have that extra hour. Make sure you have nothing going on, because this is going to be a dandy of a game. I know on Sunday I'm just going to sit back, Ben. I actually found my old Redskins Donovan McNabb jersey from when I was 12 years old. Like a
nice.
Yeah, 12, 13-year-old ancient jersey. I found in my closet. I'm going to dust it off, and I'm going to wear it for the Commanders game against Philly, which is very notable because, you know, McNabb played for both the Redskins and the Eagles in his day. So I'm going to wear that for the game and then just sit back and watch football just all day. It's going to be fun. But just make sure you guys just watch that game, because it's going to be an amazing game. It's going to be, I think, one of the best games we've seen in a long time, because every time Bills and Chiefs play, it always goes down to the wire. I got to go with Kansas City as well, because I think that when it gets tight, it's just like the Niners and the Chiefs from last year, where it got tight and the Niners saw ghosts and they got scared and they got the demons of the past. They saw the demons of the past and they ended up doing stupid stuff in the past and ended up messing it up. And I think that's always what happens with the Bills against the Chiefs in the playoffs, where it gets tight and then Josh Allen, Sean McDermott, and the Bills, they see like ghost out there and they always choke late in the game. So if it gets tight, then I think that Josh Allen and the Bills are in a world of trouble. I think last year Tyler Bass missed a 30-some yard field goal, I think, to send the Bills to overtime against the Chiefs. It's just something like that always seems to happen when the Bills play the Chiefs. So I got to go with Kansas City. I think Kansas City wins it close. I'm going to go Mahomes game-winning drive. He torches that Bills defense late in the game. 2-minute drive, goes right down the field and scores a game-winning touchdown to put a dagger in the Bills' heart yet again and send the Chiefs back to the Super Bowl. An important reminder, though, is that I think the Bills, they root out Taylor Rapp. They're starting one of their starting safeties. So that's going to be an even bigger blow, I feel like, because Rapp does a very good job of stopping the run from the safety position and also defending some of the bigger weapons that the opposing team has. So that's a big blow. Watch for Kansas City to thread the football in the middle of the field to Travis Kelce, especially with Rapp not being there, especially with DeMar Hamlin kind of being very questionable in coverage. So I got to go with the Chiefs, sadly. I got to go with Kansas City and Mahomes to make another Super Bowl appearance and win this game. I'm going to go Kansas City. I'm going to go probably like 27, or I'm gonna go 31-27. I think it's a late touchdown by Mahomes to send the Chiefs to the Super Bowl, and we have a Commanders Chiefs Super Bowl, two high scoring offenses in New Orleans. It's gonna be epic. But in terms of X factors, I think for me the X factors for the Chiefs, like you mentioned, it's got to be, DeAndre Hopkins. Kansas City traded for you. They gave him a lot of assets for you. Taylor Rapp's not going to be playing. It's going to be DeMar Hamlin. You got to exploit that middle of the field, especially with the Chiefs or the Bills being very, very vulnerable in that middle of the field. The defensive side for Kansas City, I'm going to probably go with I'm going to probably go with the Chiefs secondary the Chiefs linebackers, because you got to take away Allen's ability to run. If you could take away that ability to run, then I think that you will be set if you're the Buffalo Bills. And then for the Bills, I think for the Bills, it's going to come down to, can they get out of their own head at the end? And, it always seems to happen where they just simply just cannot get out of their own head. And in terms of X factors, I'm going to go, it's not a player, it's going to be a coach. I'm going to go with Sean McDermott because it just seems like every time late in games against the Chiefs, he makes some boneheaded decision in terms of play call or in terms of like field goal decision or whatever, and just screws it all up for the Buffalo Bills. So I'm going to go McDermott because McDermott cannot choke late in the game again if you want to get past Andy Reid.
Yeah, another thing really quick too that I forgot to mention is the Chiefs have a very good front, obviously headlined by Chris Jones. They need to do everything in their power to give Josh Allen time. That's really the biggest thing because Josh Allen, at least in the playoffs against them in the past, has had some ability, which obviously he plays very freely. He gets out there in the pocket when he wants to be Superman, a hero, obviously, but the Bills hopefully don't want to have that happen again when they play the Chiefs. Is they don't want to rely completely all on Josh Allen because I think if that happens, I think that really plays into what the Chiefs want to do because I think if for the Bills, Allen's going to want to try to just do what he does and really just put the team on his back. But for a fact with Mahomes, yes, he's going to want to do the exact same thing, but it's the distribution, of course, and there's a playmaking ability very similar to like Allen, but we've seen specifically time and time again, like you mentioned, can the Bills get out of their own head? And can Allen make specifically the timely plays where he can basically go toe-to-toe like they have been in the past in these type of games, in which can they just make the timely plays when it's needed most? Because I would love to see a overtime type of game right here. And it's going to come down to, it could be literally one mistake that could basically be the overall turning factor here. So we'll see in terms of what happens overall in this overall game. We're going to preview the Super Bowl matchup regardless of what happens. Definitely, probably next week or the week before after. We'll have to take a look. Maybe we can get our other friend here, Laurel, as well next week. We'll take a look and see in terms of what he has availability-wise because I'd love to hear in terms of what his Super Bowl prediction is and stuff like that. We'll get into other like prop bets and stuff, and maybe we'll have Steven, of course, and some other friends of ours for a big Super Bowl preview show. But yeah, no, it should be a really fun overall type of extra point, weekend for this weekend. So hope you guys enjoy the games as well there too. But before we do go, we want to obviously get into some new coaching hires kind of around the league like we kind of did last week. And every single team that basically like we talked about last week, but one team, and that's the New Orleans Saints, have pretty much gotten their NFL search for coaching around the league. So obviously Isaiah, because I know that you're really like closely tied into this type of stuff. I'll let you take it on this overall segment here.
Yeah, so we're gonna go around the gridiron world and get into some of the big coaching hires that happened over the week. We went with Dallas, obviously, because we had to unload on that. Absolutely. Yeah, get the fun out of the way. Exactly. Well, let's get into the next hire, which is today. It broke today. The Raiders missed out on Ben Johnson. He went to Chicago. So the Raiders pivoted to their next choice, which is he's back in the NFL, fellas. Pete Carroll, the legendary former Seahawks coach, is back in the NFL. He is with the Las Vegas Raiders. The Raiders hired him today. I think they gave him a 3-year contract, which is kind of not normal for a head coach because they typically get like a 4 or 5 year deal. But Pete is 73, so he's going to get a shorter term deal. It's going to be interesting to see how this move is long term for the Raiders because Pete is walking into a situation where they're rebuilding in Las Vegas. But Ben, look at this division now. When you think about the AFC West, you have Andy Reid, Sean Payton, Jim Harbaugh, and Pete effing Carroll, man. I mean, like, wow, this looks like the SEC when it comes to coaches in this division. Like, it's gonna be fun. Like, it's gonna be bring your popcorn and get ready to watch every time one of these two teams play. I mean, think about Andy Reid versus Pete Carroll, or Pete Carroll, Sean Payton, or Sean Payton, Andy Reid, or Andy Reid versus Jim Harbaugh, Jim Harbaugh versus Pete Carroll. The old Niners Seahawks Stanford USC rivalry gets back on track. So I'm looking forward to that. But in terms of this hire, I do like the hire for the Raiders, because I thought the Raiders needed a big time coach. Antonio Pierce, let's face it, he wasn't, he should have never been the guy from the beginning. I thought they needed a big name, an established coach. They go out and get Pete Carroll, who can establish the culture there. I'm worried that his defense is very outdated, because we saw the last 2 years in Seattle where teams were just straight up shredding the Seahawks defense. They were giving up like 33 points a game. They couldn't stop anybody. It's going to be interesting to see who he brings in as quarterback. There's already talk that Russell Wilson might be a choice there in Vegas. Yep, for the short term. So that's going to be interesting. But I do like the hire. You know, it brings some juice to the Raiders. It brings some excitement there. It sells tickets. You get a big name coach to compete with the likes of Andy Reid, Jim Harbaugh, Sean Payton in your division. And also, you know, Pete Carroll, every time his teams like are supposed to be rebuilding, it just seems like his teams always fight and they have grit, and they, you know, they end up winning some games that you're not supposed to win, and he's going to be able to set the culture there in Vegas. So I do like the move for the Raiders. I think that this helps the Raiders kind of get back to relevancy in terms of with Pete Carroll, but good for Pete that he's back in the NFL.
Yeah, really happy for Pete. You know, I know that he probably was kind of chomping at the bit to get himself back into this overall league. And you know, like you said, you know, they're obviously a rebuilding type of team, and that's all about specifically is can they get, you know, this team kind of back to relevancy. I know that they're going to be playing in New England this year, so I'm really excited to see Pete. You know, maybe I'll be at that game. Who knows? But you know, the Raiders, I think it's going to come down to in terms of what happens to their quarterback. You know, do they go out? Do they get a Sam Darnold? Do they get a obviously reunited with Russell Wilson, which I think would be really, really funny to have reunited with, you know, the quarterback and head coach on two different franchises. But, you know, I think that would be kind of a really cool thing, especially if Russ is kind of getting up there in age, to kind of start with his career with the same coach and end with the same coach. Because I know that obviously they left on not the best of terms, but I think it wasn't as bad as people made it out to be. Kind of similar with Brady and Belichick, honestly. I was kind of just like it kind of had to end here and there, but
yeah.
But I do think that you know, like I mentioned, the Raiders really haven't had a coach in a long time that, you know, has been very experienced, can set the mindset culture there, and I'm really excited in terms of what he can do with the team.
Yeah, I love the hire for sure. And also Raiders also hired John Spytek, former teammate of Tom Brady's in Vegas. I mean, in Michigan. And a key part of why Tom Brady wanted to go to the Bucs. The Bucs assistant GM, he's gonna go to Vegas to be their GM. I mean, I think that move, Ben, also shows that Tom Brady's the guy that's running things in Vegas now. Like, it's not Mark Davis. He's the owner, but Tom Brady's the guy that's running the show there in Vegas. You bring in Brady's teammate from college, the guy that had a big part of him going to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think, look, Brady, I think for Mark Davis to trust Brady, it's a great move, because Mark Davis has not been the greatest owner in the world, and that might be a understatement right there. But I do like that move for the Raiders. I think the Raiders are now in the right direction.
100%. I know, obviously, like they're just in a really tough division, and you know, just hopefully that they can stay competitive. So that's just one thing that has been really just tough for that team. It's just be competitive, and now specifically they have to hopefully start getting back to that overall competitive ways.
All right, let's go to Jacksonville, where one of the crazier stories of the week happened, and that is Liam Cohen was set to stay in Tampa Bay. He was set to be the offensive coordinator for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers again. He signed a lucrative contract extension, and what happens in a matter of 17 hours where Liam Cohen decides to ghost the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, his own team, he pulled a DeAndre Jordan with the Clippers. I don't know if you remember that from back in the day when DeAndre Jordan was set to go to the Mavs, and the Clippers basically went to his house and locked him into his own house with Paul Pierce and Doc Rivers and those guys. Liam Cohen ghosted the Bucks, did not return any texts, any calls, or anything like that. He then called Todd Bowles 5 hours later and said, hey, I was with my son all day. He got sick, whatever, and barely mentioned the Jacksonville Jaguars job and that he was revisiting it. Meanwhile, he was in Jacksonville secretly. It was like some type of spy movie, secret agent type movie scene. And he agrees to a deal to be the head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Trevor Lawrence has his coach now. Ben, my reaction to this is I was in shock because I thought that and not to mention the Jags also fired GM Trent Baalke too. When the news
very key on this.
Yeah, when the news broke that Cohen was staying in Tampa originally. But I mean, this is probably one of the craziest stories I've seen in the NFL. I feel bad for Todd Bowles and the Bucks. For you to get your coordinator back and for him to secretly renege and then secretly be in talks with another team, like I don't think Liam Cohen handled it the best. Like if you were interested in the job, you should have just called him and just been like, look, I've changed my mind. It's okay to change your mind in this business, but for you to do all this ghosting and all this hiding and secret stuff and then say like, oh, my son was sick, that's why I didn't answer any of the calls. And when you're in reality in Jacksonville interviewing, like I thought that was kind of like a Bush League move by Liam Cohen. I don't think he should have done that. But look, it's a good hire for Jacksonville because their other candidates were either Patrick Graham of the Raiders defensive coordinator or Robert Saleh, who I don't think is ready for a head coaching job right away after he got fired by the Jets. But Trevor Lawrence needed an offensive mind. You need a guy to help him fix his confidence, fix his footwork, help him get developed. And Cohen's offenses with the Bucks have been just really lethal. And so I think that it's a good move. You get a good young play caller, get Baalke out of the way because Baalke was just a hindrance for that franchise. And I don't think he should have ever been the GM there. He made really bad picks after pick after pick. He's the same guy that, drafted Trayvon Walker over Aiden Hutchinson. I mean, that's just unforgivable. So I think it's a good move for the Jags. I just don't like how Cohen handled his departure. But other than that, I think this is a good move for the Jags. Their Jags, it helps get Trevor Lawrence's confidence back. And it proves, look, Trevor Lawrence is now on the hot seat, Ben. If he does not do well with another offensive-minded coach, there's nobody else to blame now besides Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, yeah, it was crazy. Just, I thought all along he was going to go back to Tampa, kind of how it looked. And then obviously the GM for the Jags got fired like the day or two after. And then all of a sudden, boom, the Jags opening for the head coach was still open. And he decided to kind of take it behind closed doors. I feel for not only the Bucs, but I feel for Baker Mayfield because Liam Cohen was absolutely phenomenal with Baker Mayfield. And I think that Baker he's found a home in Tampa. And to keep that same kind of relationship, at least for the next couple of years, I think would have been great. I understand that a lot of these coaches kind of go in and out, but Baker really hasn't fared well in terms of keeping guys around, at least as coordinators. I mean, I feel like every other 2 years with Baker is he always has either a new head coach or he has a new coordinator. So it's tough for him, but I know he's always going to do well. There's obviously rumblings right now that potentially Nick Caley, who I know that the Patriots obviously have kind of looked at the last couple of years, he comes from the McVay tree, and Baker's already played with the McVay system, so I could obviously see that as a fit. A couple other names too, but Liam Cohen was phenomenal with Tampa Bay. But I do think that now obviously him going to Jacksonville, I think that's a really good move for Trevor Lawrence, and because I think that Lawrence kind of struggled at least in the last year in terms of one to have his consistency stats, but two his overall health too. So I think hopefully maybe that Lawrence could get a revenge arc because I still think that Lawrence has a lot of good football in him. I mean, he was a top pick in the overall draft a couple years ago for a reason, and he's really brought that Jags team to at least relevancy. For the time being since he's been around. So I think it's a really good hire, and it's offensive-minded type of coach as well.
Yep, and let's go to the last head coaching hire before we just do a quick spin on the coordinators, and then we'll wrap things up. But Aaron Glenn is going back to the franchise that drafted him, that developed him, that made him into a Pro Bowler. He is set to leave Detroit, or he has left Detroit. He's now taking the head coaching job with the New York Jets. Questions now surround if Aaron Rodgers is going to come back, if Davante Adams is going to come back. Ben, for me, I don't really like this hire because I thought that Aaron Glenn, his defenses have never been that great with the Detroit Lions. They have always been ranked in like the top, like they've been like number 15. They've been like kind of middle of the pack. I know he's a good leader, but I don't think the Jets needed a defensive minded coach. You tried that last time with Robert Saleh, a defensive minded coach with creativity. That didn't work out. Now I wonder why they didn't pivot to like a Mike McCarthy or like a Joe Brady, someone that could help Aaron Rodgers get back on track. Because as much as there's questions about Aaron Rodgers, is he coming back to the Jets, you're kind of stuck with him because he's got a mammoth contract and you gave up a lot to get Davante Adams. You have Garrett Wilson there. You're probably gonna have to run this group back for another year. So why not get an offensive-minded coach and maybe reunite Rodgers with like a McCarthy or someone like that? Like, I just don't get this hire to go with a defensive-minded coach. You tried that again already. Glenn's defenses have never really been that impressive from the get-go. So for me, I don't really like this hire. I think that the Jets kind of just settled on like a player that's played for them before. They've kind of settled on familiarity, and I felt like that's not their way to go. Especially if you wanted a defensive-minded coach, if you wanted a leader of men, why not go get Rex Ryan back in the building? He's a strong leader. Like, he's a polarizing name. I just don't understand this hire for the New York Jets getting Aaron Glenn.
So my overall thinking, and I could be and this is obviously a knock on this guy right now, but this gives me very Jerod Mayo-esque vibes for the New York Jets. A very good leader of men, a really good guy defensively, but familiarity, like you mentioned, and he's never coached as a head coach until this year. I just looked at his overall in the past is he's been very defensive coordinator minded, or he's been an assistant guy. So the Jets specifically really need a strong head coach that's been there, done that. I think McCarthy, I'm not the biggest McCarthy guy, but he would have been a lot better as a candidate. Rex Ryan even as well too, because not only that, guy like Rex Ryan or somebody else, if you've had the coaching in the past, the experience, defensive-minded, I can understand, even though I wouldn't care for it. But the Jets got to figure out their quarterback situation. I think specifically when you bring a defensive-minded type of coach in, I don't know specifically how a guy like Rodgers feels about that, right? Because they've done this. They literally just did this last year with Robert Saleh and with Jeff Ulbrich. I mean, Ulbrich was more of the interim type of coach, but he was a defensive-minded type of guy. Like, they already did this specifically. How about Eric Bieniemy? Somebody of like that type of nature, offensive-minded type of coach. And I know we'll talk about the overall coordinator for the Patriots coming up offensively, because I think that's obviously a great match. But unless the Jets bring an offensive-minded type of coach in, that can definitely complement Aaron Glenn's, obviously, his availability. Obviously in New Jersey. I think I don't really know what to make about this. I think defensively they can still be fine because they have a really good defense, but they've already tried this last year. I just feel like it's kind of a similar thing of what's the past, and we'll see. I think that Glenn's still a really good coach, but I don't think specifically he is kind of ready to make this next step with a very uncertain at the offensive minded position.
Yeah, good point. And I think when you look at the Jets and you look at a lot of these first-year head coaches, like Fitz, like the successful coaches that end up working out is like they have a good quarterback, right? Quarterback is a big thing in football. You have to have a good quarterback. Like, it doesn't matter if you're a great coordinator, you have a great coaching mind. If you don't have a good quarterback, you're going to fail. And I think that Glenn, he's walking into a situation where Aaron Rodgers, you don't know if he's going to come back. You don't have that quarterback of the future. And I kind of feel like you're right in terms of the Jerod Mayo thing, where I feel for the young guy who is going to be drafted by the Jets, because he's going to be walking into a situation where you're going to have to sit behind Rodgers most likely, and that's like toxic already. Yeah. And then also, the thing with the Patriots, and we'll talk about McDaniels in a little bit, but Drake May, why I love the McDaniels hire was because you get a guy that can be with him for like 5 to 10 years, right? He's not going to leave for a head coaching job. If Glenn hires a hot offensive coordinator and his offense has success, he's going to be plucked out of there. And they're going to have to recycle and recycle and recycle again until you find that consistency at the offensive coordinator position. That's true. Maybe.
You know, we're talking about, obviously, with the Texans moving on from Slowick. There's a guy that potentially that the Jets can look at because they need to get somebody that's an offensive-minded type of driven coach. And at least Slowick has shown, ability in the past to make, offensive-minded stuff work happen. And he's really good specifically with guys that have complementary pieces around them. And the Jets have that. So, that's a guy out there. But the Jets are the Jets. You just never know with their front office.
That's true. Going to the last team that doesn't have a head coach, New Orleans, and we'll probably make this quick, but New Orleans is looking for a new head coach. They're interviewing Mike McCarthy next week. They got Joe Brady and Kellen Moore coming in next week. Anthony Weaver, the Dolphins defensive coordinator, he's met with them, I think, for the second time today. So apparently the finalists for that job is Joe Brady, Anthony Weaver, Mike McCarthy, and Kellen Moore for that job. Ben, if you had to give a guy that you want out of those finalists to be the head coach of the Saints, for me, I'm going to go with Joe Brady. I think that I've said all along, Joe Brady's a bright offensive mind. He comes from that Sean Payton coaching tree. It seems like the Saints kind of just want to try hard to replicate. And he's a bright offensive mind. He can be there, be your head coach for 10 to 15 years. He's a guy that, can groom the young quarterback. He's really good in terms of game planning, play design, and also working with quarterbacks. And he's got that history in Louisiana. Just look what he did with LSU when he was there with Joe Burrow and those guys. But if I'm Joe Brady, I don't know if I want that job because if I'm Joe Brady, I want to wait until the Bengals job opens up. That's the one job I think he should take because if Zach Taylor and the Bengals have another bad year, I think Zach Taylor might be out the door in Cincinnati next. Yeah, and out the door in Cincinnati next year. And I think Joe Brady would imagine this. Joe Brady reuniting with Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and those weapons.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that might be the team that actually wins the Super Bowl there in Cincinnati. But if I had to pick for the Saints, I go with Brady just because, with Mike McCarthy, it seems like he's a ready to win now coach. The Saints are not ready to win now. They have Derek Carr under that atrocious contract for the next for the next 2 years, I think. So you need to ride that out until you can get cap space, until you can not be salary cap strapped, and until you can actually get your quarterback of the future. So for me, I'll ride with Joe Brady. How about you?
I agree. I like Joe Brady a lot. The Saints right now aren't in win now mode. And I think that if they were in a win now mode, I'd probably go with McCarthy, but Brady is a very safe bet. He is already kind of familiar with them in the past. And yeah, I think that's a pretty safe bet to have.
All right, let's do a run on the coordinators. We had two major coordinators get hired, which is both of our teams actually, Ben. My Niners brought back Robert Saleh, and your Patriots have brought back Josh McDaniels to be the offensive coordinator. I'll give my take on both of them. Robert Saleh, I think, is a great hire by the Niners because it just seemed like the Niners defense have been missing a lot of juice lately. And you look at the last couple of years, they were missing that energy that Robert Saleh brings on the sideline, screaming, yelling, hyping up his players. Like they were missing that. It looked like they were dead in the water this year. They were just kind of lethargic. You bring Robert Saleh back, you bring that juice back into the locker room, you bring that juice back to the defense. And also he's a very creative defensive mind. He's very good at, scheming up blitzes and stuff like that. He's able to develop the defensive lineman, and he's got that connection with Kyle Shanahan. I love this hire for the Niners. I just hope Saleh stays for a couple of years because it just seems like the Niners are always going through coordinators like year in and year out. I think this is going to be our third coordinator in the last 3 years, so hopefully this sticks. Patriots with McDaniels, I think this is a great hire as well because, like we said with the Jets, when you hire a defensive coach like Vrabel's not really a defensive coach, but he's a CEO who doesn't call plays. You need that offensive coordinator to be there for for 5 to 10 years. Like, you need that coordinator to be there for a long time. That's why I wanted Ben Johnson to be the head coach of the Patriots, because you need a guy that can be with Drake May for a good vast majority of his career and not just leave him when he's that offense is successful. Now you have McDaniels there. McDaniels is not going to leave for head coaching job because he's failed twice already in the NFL. He's going to be there for May and develop him and teach him and be able to scheme up plays for him for 5 to 10 years, which is a great thing if you're the Patriots. And remember, Josh McDaniels, Mac Jones, when he was with the Patriots, and I'm sorry to bring up like old memories, Ben, but Mac Jones, his one good year in New England came with Josh McDaniels. He was great with Josh McDaniels as his play caller. When McDaniels left, he was absolutely garbage. So McDaniels knows a thing or two about coaching quarterbacks. So I think this is a great hire, and I think Drake May, if you can bring in some more weapons around him, fix that offensive line, maybe get a Travis Hunter, I think he will absolutely flourish next season.
Yeah, really quick, I'll start with your defense corner. Robert Saleh, absolutely slam dunk. This could be one of the best coaching moves, at least in the carousel. Because you guys are ready to win now. Their defense, maybe between Bosa, Ward, obviously, in the secondary, even though he's a free agent. But yeah, Bosa and Fred Warner. A lot of guys, at least in that front, they're just absolutely ferocious. And Saleh I think Saleh is a very good defensive coordinator. He's a very good corner, very defensive minded guy. Not a great head coach. He's just not specifically. That's just not his overall playing style. But I think that this is a really good overall move for you guys, and hopefully you guys might kind of start being the defense this upcoming year than what you've seen the last couple, and which kind of getting yourself back on track and playing some decent Niner football, at least from both sides of the ball, because I know that the last couple of years there's kind of fell a little bit, but you guys will definitely be back, I think, this year, and hopefully the next couple of years. McDaniels one, I know a lot of people hate the familiarity standpoint. I love it because McDaniels is very, very good with working quarterbacks, and now you have Vrabel, who could basically work with the defense, and you got McDaniels be able to work with Drake May, and what's really cool too is McDaniels actually picked up Mike Vrabel from the airport a couple days ago. So they already basically have the connection as is because they're already very close. But the fact that you already kind of have the little sync already, and they already brought in Terrell Williams, who actually was on the staff with Mike Vrabel, who was a defensive coordinator for the Titans. The staff is basically all put into place for the Pats right now. And I couldn't be any more proud with the way that Robert Kraft has been really taking this offseason after the way that last year happened with the team. Another thing too, Isaiah, is the Patriots have brought in 2 offensive assistants alongside Josh McDaniels. They brought a quarterback's assistant coach from Ohio State of this year, and they also brought in a coach from the McVay tree. So I think specifically that they're really starting to bring some offensive-minded type of guys in. They really haven't brought in the last couple of years, and I think that really kind of tells me that I wouldn't say that they really weren't in it for business the last couple of years, but they're ready to go. Like, they've kind of already seen kind of what's happened the last couple of years, but, you got Drake for a second year. You've got Vrabel, who's a very good-minded coach. You got McDaniels, an offensive-minded type of guy. You got Terrell Williams, who's been very highly touted around the league, at least on the defensive side. You got 2 offensive assistants. You got the number 1 in cap space. You have everything ready now, I think, for this team to be a very good, I don't know, obviously, Super Bowl or, AFC title contention, but definitely for themselves to get back into the playoffs, I think would be an absolute great goal to have. And I think it starts with a lot of the stuff that Kraft and the coaching staff is having for the offseason.
Yeah, I agree. I would not be shocked if you guys were in contention for a wild card spot next season. Because remember, that defense is good that you guys have there in New England. It's all about, can they surround Drake May with weapons that can enhance them and also beef up that offensive line? Like, the Patriots were in a lot of games last year. It wasn't like they were getting blown out. Like, besides the last couple of games, they weren't getting blown out. They were they were in a lot of games last year. It's just that they didn't have the weapons and they didn't have, Drake. Drake was good, but he just didn't have that scheme to be able to take off and be at the level of like a Jaden Daniels is this year.
That's my hope. I hope people have been saying the Commanders comp for us for next year. That's what I would love to see. It's just for us to just get in the playoffs. Like you mentioned, our defense has been great. Right, and you're seeing guys like Jeffrey Simmons. I think might as well just book a ticket to One Patriot Place because every single move that we've had coaching wise today has been so funny. He's basically been like, "Congratulations, you're going to be great in New England," and I'm like,
"Wow!"
Asking for it. I'm like, you put Jeffrey Simmons on that defensive line for us with Christian Barmore, Keon White. You go Abdul Carter from Penn State. You're talking about one of the best defensive fronts in football. I mean, Jeffrey Simmons, we have all the cash in the world, one of the top teams in football. You're telling me you want to stay with the Tennessee Titans?
No way.
Poverty franchises? Or you want to come and play with Mike Vrabel, who you just were playing with over in New England? I mean, heck, even the team like you got your Niners, if you got Jeffrey Simmons got available, I think there's going to be a lot of guys that are going to be out there via in the trade market or cap casualties. And I've seen – there's an article of guys like Devontae Adams, Tyler Lockett, a lot of big household names. There's actually DK Metcalf. I was hoping for maybe a trade. It doesn't sound like though he wants.
He might go to the Raiders, which is crazy.
The Chargers have been very high on DK Metcalf. Apparently, they asked DK Metcalf if he would ever want to play for the Patriots in a trade, and because there's a podcast I saw, and it broke me a little bit. But I'm not surprised. He said Massachusetts does not seem a place that he could see himself staying in, but he respects the Patriots and the organization for what they've came to. So I'm like, all right, it's what it is. I really wasn't expecting him to come, but of course a man could dream for that. But they needed some type of guy like a T. Higgins or some type of that comp for May. I think we're going to start to cook a little bit.
You forgot about one more name, Ben. The guy that has the most connections to Mike Vrabel, a wide receiver. And that is, I've seen this out there because him and Jalen's got some tension out there in Philly. And that is A.J. Brown. Yeah. That would be insane if the Patriots got A.J. Brown. But yeah, I mean, that would be great. I mean, if you could surround Drake May with a couple elite receivers, get him maybe like a couple running backs, beef up that defense. Heck, maybe add a Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter. I mean, this team is going to be in it because the AFC, when you look at the bottom teams like that are in the wild card position, yeah, there's a lot of teams, but with Drake, with all those guys, like I think they could be right up there with those. Could be the Broncos.
The Broncos, and I'll be totally satisfied with that. We're right there. I mean, heck, the last couple of years we were right. We were right there with the Bills. I mean, the Bills and the Chiefs, the last couple of years, and they're pretty much looked at as the two top teams in the AFC. So it just came down to the offensive talent. We start to get some talent around. I think we'll be in pretty good shape. But let's go to the rest of the coordinator position because I know we're almost out of time here.
All right. Well, actually, that's it for the coordinator position. But I got one more topic for you. And I know this is an NFL show, but this is a football show. And we got to get into this because I know you're very happy. But on Monday night in the world of college football, the 10-year drought, folks, is officially over. The Ohio State Buckeyes. Your Ohio State Buckeyes are now again. Yes, the Ohio State Buckeyes are champions of the football world. They defeat Notre Dame. Ryan Day gets his redemption. He gets his glory. Chip Kelly, what a great play call to Jeremiah Smith on 3rd and 11 when Notre Dame was bringing the blitz. Marcus Freeman, sadly, with the ill-advised field goal late in the game. But Ben, congratulations to your Buckeyes, Steven, Ryan, Schreiner, Shree, everybody that I know that goes to Ohio State, Trevor Williams, congratulations to you guys. I know you guys have waited for a long time, endured so many bad moments over this 10-year drought, but just take this in real quick, Ben. Ohio State national champions once again. Just take it away.
Yeah, no, it feels absolutely incredible. I remember about a month ago, 2 months ago, obviously, when they lost to Michigan, I'm like, of course, if they're going to play Michigan this year, you're going to have to beat them. Michigan had one of the worst offensive rosters out there. And I remember I was working that day. I didn't even get the chance to even see the game, But I knew for a fact, I'm like, Michigan was awful. I'm like, we're at home. I'm like, if we're not going to win that type of game, we're never going to ever beat them again. And I might as well just ask Ryan Day to be on the hot seat and be fired as is. And I remember I was on my break and I saw that the game was tied at halftime. And I basically told my buddies at work, I'm like, they better not lose. They better not find a way to lose this game. And then all of a sudden, about a couple hours later, I hear that from one of my coworkers, he said they lost. And I said, who lost? It was Michigan. He's like, no, Ohio State lost. And I basically told him, I looked at him like, you're kidding me, man, right? And yeah, no, they played awful against Michigan. I saw the highlights and stuff. But, give them credit. They obviously were able to get into the playoff. And, at least to have them maybe like win a game or two would have been nice. It would have been great to see. I didn't think they were going to go all the way, kind of giving the other better teams kind of around. But, yeah, it's just absolutely incredible run. They really took the extra college football playoff into fruition and took advantage of it. I mean, the last time they won the national championship was the first time they brought the Final Four format in. So that was a while ago, and now they're doing it specifically for this one too. So, yeah, just incredible. Really great run, and Will Howard, give him a lot of credit. He obviously transfer coming over from Kansas State, and Jeremiah Smith as a freshman. He was absolutely incredible. I mean, that game against Notre Dame got a little dicey in that second half, giving Notre Dame a lot of credit. From what looked like it was going to be a blowout basically all game, Notre Dame came back and really kept it close at least until the fourth quarter. But Ryan Day, I forgive you, my friend. You've got another championship now on to you. And, we'll see in terms of what happens next year. But really excited stuff and just a great overall run.
Let me just say this, Ben. Your Buckeyes humiliated me because when we did our college football show, I don't think you were on that day, but we did our college football show. I said Ohio State would have 4 losses. I said Ohio State was going to finish 5th in the Big Ten, and they ended up, I don't know if you can see my face right now, but yeah, I was wrong about the Buckeyes. Congratulations to the Buckeyes. You guys deserve it. Your fan base deserves it. I know when you guys lost to Michigan, I think I was telling a couple of my friends, I was like, I don't know if the Buckeyes are going to make the playoffs because that's how bad Michigan was. I mean, they were a bottom tier team this year in college football. And so I was like, man, I don't think you're going to make the playoffs, but for you guys to rally, beat Tennessee, I know Tennessee's Tennessee, like they're not real true contenders, but to do what you guys did against Oregon, then to do what you did against Texas, and then to beat Notre Dame, a very great defensive team, and Chip Kelly with that great play call, 3rd and 11. Notre Dame's expecting a pass, or they're expecting the run. They bring the blitz, and to throw it deep to Jeremiah Smith. I mean, a lot of credit to Ryan Day, a lot of credit to Chip Kelly, a lot of credit to Jim Knowles, the defensive coordinator. Just a great season. And I always thought Ohio State would never break through, but you guys did it. And definitely like very, very happy for you. And yeah, man, I know my Steven's actually the reason why he couldn't jump on tonight was he's actually driving over to Columbus from Illinois to go to the Buckeyes parade. So hope all the Buckeye fans have a lot of fun tomorrow or later on today.
I had no idea what I was even, to be honest.
Yeah, no worries. But yeah, I hope congrats to the Buckeyes once again. Ohio State right there. National champions once again. And they're the kings of the college football world. But yeah, it's been a great show. But Ben, let me throw it back to you to end the program for tonight.
All right, so great overall show. The final thoughts, like I just mentioned, we're gonna leave a little college football stuff at the end here of the program. So it was really, really fun. But yeah, I hope you guys really enjoy the games for this weekend. Really quickly before we call it a night, though, really quick, like I said to start the program, as we always do, make sure to follow us on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram and TikTok on the MI6 and IM6 Sports Network. I know that obviously TikTok a couple of days ago had a little bit of a feud that pretty much happened for about 24 hours. And silly me for myself in terms of I deleted the app.
No way.
because I thought it was going to be basically something which it was like going to go on for a little while. And then I try to, the next morning I wake up and I go to the app store and didn't see it there. And I've seen reports out that maybe it might come back a couple days after. And yeah, I haven't gotten it back ever since then. So silly me forever deleting that TikTok app. I did not expect that to happen, but oh well, it's what it is. But yeah, everything else, I mean, like I said, it's going to be a good overall weekend. Of the 2 games we're going to have, I'm really excited. So hope you guys enjoy it. We're going to have some good weather with those games. And then I think next week, in terms of kicking with Cruz, I think because we're going to have a week without football, we're going to do a lot more of some of the other sports, at least around the league. And we'll kind of do like an early prediction preview on the Super Bowl. I know probably you, Loro, Steven, and maybe even John as well, too. We can kind of all do like try to figure out maybe like a day we can all kind of preview the Super Bowl and give all of our predictions. I think it'll be a lot of fun to get everybody all back together. Maybe we can even try to see what we could do for like a Super Bowl stream or something like that as well, too. We're going to have to figure that out. I know I have a stream, at least my other network, that I think I'm going to have for that night, but I might be able to pop on if we do something as well, too. But definitely I would love to still do a stream, at least to preview the Super Bowl, which will be in 2 weeks. So I'm really excited for that stuff. Anything at least for you on your end, Isaiah? I know for a fact from my end. Hope you guys have a great overall weekend. Like I mentioned, enjoy the games. I'm pretty much good on my end. So what about you?
Yeah, for me, I think the Super Bowl show, definitely great idea. We'll plan it out. We'll probably do like a special Super Bowl show. I think a couple years ago we did that. It was a great show. So yeah, we're gonna have that. I think Taylor is thinking about doing Face Off sometime soon. It'll be like the first edition of the season. We
gotta talk about the big bombshell that happened tonight.
That's true. So
and then going to the Hurricanes. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, get your that's gonna be fun. It's hockey season now. It's almost playoff time. Can you believe it? Like in basketball and hockey. The playoffs are, I think, 3 months away. So we've got the trade deadline in basketball like next week, which is insane.
That's
so
crazy.
Yeah, like it's just and then you know what's crazy, Ben, is that how time just flies. So you got the trade deadline in a couple of weeks, I think next week. You got the All-Star game in basketball. You've got the hockey, like the nations face-off. You got the trade deadline there. And then we forgot about one thing. It's almost February, which means spring training is right around the corner. And I mean,
guys out there in the market. Bring in Alonzo. So that's still going on there too.
Speaking of baseball, congratulations. I know I dread to say this, but congrats to Low Roll Dodgers on winning the Sasaki sweepstakes. I think everybody kind of knew he was headed there, but still, we'll see. We'll see what happens. We'll do like and maybe an NBA trade deadline show. Look out for that. I know this upcoming week I'm gonna have a lot of time because I'm on a vacation week, so we'll see what happens. But yeah, it's gonna be a great week of football. Like you said, it's gonna be you got Lakers Warriors on Saturday, so it's gonna be fun. But enjoy this week of sports, y'all. And what's even better is on Monday, actually. I don't know if you can see this, Ben, but I actually am officially a hockey guy. I got my first ever jersey, which is a Sharks jersey. Yes, sir. I got the Macklin Celebrini Sharks jersey. So I know the Sharks aren't doing very well right now. We did play your Bruins tough on Monday on MLK Day.
You did. You really did. I thought we were going to lose in that third period, but you guys played hard.
Yeah. I thought that game was very, very intense. I know I was kind of like, oh my God, the Sharks are going to blow it again. And yes, they did blow it, but they did show signs of progress, to be honest. They did show. But yeah, it's
too as of late, so you're not.
But yeah, those are my final thoughts. I'm going to be going to the Sharks Penguins game on Monday. It's going to be it's crazy enough. It's going to be my 10th hockey game of the year. I've never been to more than maybe 3 in a year, but now it's going to be my 10th one Monday night. Celebrini versus Sidney Crosby. Can't wait for that.
You could break out your jersey night, your first ever jersey for that game now, start on Monday. So that should be a lot of fun. All right, but what also is very, very fun as well too is we're going to be able to call this a night and really get ourselves ready for an absolute dandy of a weekend. Like you mentioned, Isaiah, and obviously the football will be happening on Sunday. But really quickly, guys, thank you guys for watching. I was going to say Kick with Cruz. Extra point alongside it. It's getting late, guys. Bear with us. Extra point alongside me and Isaiah Leon. You guys have a great rest of your evening. We're going to give it off to the Adler here on tonight's program. Thank you guys for watching. You guys have a great rest of your evening, and we'll see you guys on the next show here.
Purdy out of the shotgun, drops a couple of steps, going to take a deep shot to Brandon Ayuk. It's deflected and caught.
Cousins, first read taken away. Left side, he throws. Wide open pitch. From being able to make a play on that football. That's where we were so good last year in the red zone. Nix evades the run. Nix the fake. Another fake, and he spins into the end zone.
They're going to get a free play. Rodgers is the master at it, and a touchdown by Lazard. Jones on the fake, pressure coming, and he's sacked by Parsons.
God, corner.
Open man Hudson.
The throw, caught. Hudson lost the ball. Looked like a touchdown. Instead, it's a turnover.
On the pocket. That's away from Chenal, who's trying to get after him for a second time, but the ball is thrown to the end zone, and it's caught! On it to McCaffrey, right up the middle, and a stiff arm, McCaffrey for 6. Duval!